This is the F.A.T.T Show, where it's football all the time, and I'm D.
I'm Kevin. Pleasure to be with you.
And right now we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys coming off of a great win, 27-17 against the Baltimore Ravens, #1 defense.
Wow.
Great win for them. They are now 9-1, Kevin.
9-1.
And
if you had to tell me
No,
that this team would be 9-1,
I told you they would probably win the division, but at 9-7. Now they're 9-1.
amazing.
Who would have thought that? And the team is playing just lights out. I mean, just fantastic.
You think about the balanced attack in which Dallas is playing right now, that of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Now, we've talked about on previous shows where to have that balanced attack means so much. To take a lot of pressure off of Dak Prescott, who, let's be clear, me and you have talked about this, is where we've identified three key factors, okay? One is Dak Prescott, the playing ability of Dak Prescott. The second is Ezekiel Elliott, right?
Yeah.
And the third goes to where?
The offensive line. And I'm going to tell you, if it's not for the offensive line, Dak and Zeke are nowhere near what they're doing. I mean, these kids are putting up crazy numbers.
Not at all.
Zeke just passed Tony Dorsett for the Dallas Cowboys rookie rushing lead. And so
now, if you had to ask me coming out of Ohio State, and for him to actually be doing what he's doing now for Dallas Cowboys, I'd say.
And by the way, Tony Dorsett was at the game, and of course, congratulated Ezekiel Elliott on a. And we still have some games left, and so he's going to be able to set that mark pretty high, I think. Your take on whether or not he can break the rookie rushing record?
I would. Well, let's be clear. We remember the third ingredient. It's kind of like we're making the Dallas Cowboy cookbook. The third ingredient, that being the offensive line. I am not going to put anything past Ezekiel Elliott not being able to break that record, because let's be very clear here in regards to that offensive line. That is usually an offensive line, you have it where the right side is stronger than the left side, or the left side is stronger than the right side. It's not here. They are all
It's a fantastic line, probably the best in the league.
And I think you find it when you see what Dallas is doing with Jason Witten, with Cole Beasley, with Des Bryant. These are ones that are blocking down the field. So remember how we were talking about the first tier, the second tier, the third tier? Really in the defense, when you see the defensive line, the linebackers, and then the defensive backs, these are offensive weapons that are making plays. They are holding their blocks, sealing the holes for Ezekiel Elliott to do his playmaking ability, and for Dak Prescott to make good reads. The time to be able to make the reads. Because if you think about it, left side or right side, if one was weaker than the other, you would see then pressure coming on Dak's left side or right side. But you don't see that here.
No, I mean, you've got Dak Prescott, who's had all the time in the world to throw. I mean, he's got 18 touchdowns and I think 2 interceptions. I mean, it's just a fantastic rookie season.
And the ball comes quick out of his hand.
And it does. And then, if his first option is shut down, he's got the time to go to his second and even his third option. And his first option on several throws this last weekend was Des Bryant. And there's probably nobody happier that Dak Prescott is playing out of his mind than Des Bryant.
Well, because if you think about a receiver, receivers got to have the ball. They're like, the quarterback has to get the ball to them in the places they like it.
And they don't have to get it to them all the time,
No.
but you need to get them at the right time. And for the, and to have those throws be spot on so they can actually make the play.
It's the progressive reads of having a balanced attack. When you look at Jason Witten, the tight end, you look at Cole Beasley being able to run maybe a quick out and a short passing route, and then you have the Des Bryant being able to run the fly pattern or some kind of, because he's a playmaker.
Well, and you talk about Cole Beasley and that play on the touchdown where he basically just caught it at the on the right hand side of the end zone, just kind of tiptoed, caught it right here. I mean, you had Dak Prescott rolling out and finding him in the end zone. I mean, great options they have all around, but you don't get there if you don't have that offensive line. And if I had an MVP award to hand out to more than one person, it would go to the offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys.
That or Rolex watches, right?
Right.
You have these. We're in the NFL. We're not in college. So these are one of those things where you see a lot of the playmakers say, well, you know what, Chris?
Emmitt Smith was known to hand out a couple of Rolex watches before.
Right.
He's the rushing leader of all running backs, obviously.
Right.
So.
But let's be very clear here, D. is that you have an offense that's putting up the points, right? And we've seen in many systems where NFL teams are they put these offensive points up real quickly. Case in point, the Rams. You remember the Rams with Kurt Warner putting up those quick points, the hottest team on turf.
Close.
Right?
Yeah, it was fantastic when they were playing. You had to just throwing up points and nobody catching them.
So this offense is throwing up points, but let's not forget the defense.
Oh, the defense is playing really well. I mean, last year, the defense was a shell of its former self. You went from a 2014 campaign that saw the Dallas Cowboys with a 12-4 record, and then the following year where you have Des Bryant and Tony Romo getting hurt, and they flip-flopped that and they were 4-12, and now they're back again. And again, we have healthy quarterback play. Tony Romo obviously he's finally healthy too, but he's now the backup.
And so if I had to add a fourth ingredient, who do you think that would be?
Tell me.
I believe it would be Tony Romo being able to be a key assistant, and then Jason Garrett. Because sometimes you'll draft a quarterback, right? And let's understand that Dak Prescott is a quarterback that in college at Mississippi State, this was close to being a Heisman Trophy winner. If Marcus Mariota didn't have the games that he had and put the flair of games that he won in the fashion he did, and Dak Prescott wouldn't have been injured the last couple games, we're talking about possibly because many people had the SEC is a stronger conference. Yeah. They had Dak Prescott right up there. So Dak Prescott, because of injury, fell a little bit in the draft. Right there for the Dallas Cowboys to really pick up. And so you think about that quarterback has to have the right system, the right quarterback.
Well, and I think it was Deion Sanders that said, recently that, doesn't Jason Garrett, doesn't Jerry Jones get some credit for some of the moves that they've made? I mean, some would say that, Dak Prescott kind of fell into their laps. I mean, they were looking to move up in the draft to get a quarterback. They were, they were kind of passed over by other teams to get the quarterbacks that they were apparently eyeing. But then Dak Prescott kind of falls into their lap, and some would say that maybe it was kind of a desperation kind of a move. They needed a backup quarterback. Let's grab Dak Prescott. Well, look what's happened.
And that's where you find the happy medium between what Jason Garrett's been able to do as a head coach for the Dallas Cowboys and then what you've had Tony Romo be to. Now, this is Tony Romo, one time a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
For 10 years.
Exactly. So
long time.
This I got to give credit where credit's due.
Sure.
Tony Romo being able to take a step back.
Well, and what a class act. I mean, that the press conference where he basically said, I'm healthy, but Dak's earned this. So let's and of course, very classy, and you want to ride the hot hand anyway. I mean, the goal is a Super Bowl, and yeah, Tony's got some pride. He wants to play. He feels like he can play, and with that offensive line, who could blame him? But again, you have to ride Dak Prescott right now. He's doing things that really haven't been done for the Cowboys.
And that's why I go back to that fourth ingredient of Tony Romo. Tony Romo having the knowledge that he's had within the NFL and really being able to be that calming presence with Jason Garrett. I think they've been a two-fold cord with Dak Prescott, sure. Keeping him cool, keeping him calm and collective, and really, I think, making the offense a little bit easier for him. Mm-hmm. How many times have we seen where Tony Romo's on the bench talking to Dak Prescott, encouraging him, sure. Showing him this is what you could have done here. He is learning quickly on the fly because he has two good places, that of QB, of a former QB, and that of Tony Romo, and that of Jason Garrett, really calming his presence.
Well, and then we talk about that third element, which is Ezekiel Elliott again, where, without having a good run game, you're really not going to have much of a passing game. And so you've got two rookies that are really vying for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
Wow.
Has
that ever been done?
It has been done once. Two Rookies of the Year. And it was in 1980 for the Atlanta Falcons. Two defensive backs for the Atlanta Falcons. One Rookie of the Year. And that would be Buddy Curry and Al Richardson. And both from the Atlanta Falcons.
And linebackers.
Wow. So it's been done once. So there's been a precedent for it. It doesn't happen very often.
And what do we hear the media saying? We hear the media saying, this is a good 1-2 punch.
Oh, yeah.
In the NFL, and we're talking the whole league right now. That people, the media is really saying, really behind this and saying, this is a good tandem that's been put together here by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, excellent work by the staff. You have no idea that going into the 4th round you'd even get somebody of the quality of Dak Prescott, but they really did a great job with the draft.
Research.
And so you've got a lot of things happening with the Dallas Cowboys, including a couple things that I want to mention, Kevin. One is Dan Bailey setting the Dallas Cowboys field goals.
Wow.
Yeah, 163. He just passed Raphael Septien.
Okay.
Had 162, so he's at 163. And he's 6 years in the league. So, and he feels like he's got quite a few years left.
He wasn't drafted, right?
Undrafted.
Undrafted.
Yeah,
Wow.
undrafted. So,
Okay.
and the Cowboys of all the teams, they've been shown to really be able to pick up some of these undrafted free agents. Tony Romo being probably the number one undrafted free agent to play. They've been able to find diamonds in the rough. They don't get drafted, and then they invite them to come and work out, for them. And they found Dan Bailey the same way, just undrafted.
And you put all those ingredients together, you look at the front office, you look at what they're doing, them doing their homework. Now, let's be clear too, when drafting a quarterback like that, sometimes these, you look at some of these analysts and media members, they tend to look at players coming into the draft and, do they set these skill high record marks, benchmarks, and these are, they put them on this pedestal of, this is the player to really could be the maybe 5th pick in the draft or the 2nd pick in the draft because of what they're doing in the shuttle or what are they doing in the the running drills.
Well, and they put the
drills.
microscope on them in the combine,
right?
And they measure hand size and how high they can jump and
what do they
their
forget?
IQ.
But what do they forget?
What happens in the game mentally?
Right.
That's going to be, and the Wonderlic test can only measure so much. I mean, but you're facing 4th and 2. With a pass rush, what is it that's going through a rookie's mind when he's got Terrell Suggs, running, like a freight train
coming after you?
Yeah. So a lot of this is what happens. I mean, you can see this kid. You're talking about Dak Prescott and the poise, the composure, and even starting out games where he just has to be patient. They talk about just be patient, just be patient. And they started out the Ravens game. He didn't, it was a rough go there for a little while, but again, just being patient, being calm, cool, and collected, like we talk about. And the other thing I want to talk about with regards to the Dallas Cowboys is this record of 9 wins in a row. The first time that the Dallas Cowboys have accomplished this in a season. This is pretty significant. 9 wins in a row.
That's huge. That's just huge. I mean, to think about 9-1. To see where, again, this division was. And really, the division itself beating up other teams.
Oh, yeah. You've got both the Giants and the Redskins winning, and they are leading quite a bit for the wild card spot. And so you could have an NFC East 3 teams possibly making the playoffs. A lot of that will depend on what happens in the next couple of weeks. You have Dallas Cowboys meeting up with the Washington Redskins here on Thanksgiving. That could set the tone for what happens in the wild card spots. But yeah, 9-1. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season?
In the NFC as well.